Training for a long, hard, sportive event can be quite daunting if you feel like you've only got a limited amount of time to train on your bike each week. However, there are a number of ways that you can increase your endurance without actually increasing how long you're spending on your bike.
So here are a few tips to help you ride longer without spending longer on your bike.
Our first training tip is something which you might have heard us talking about before here on GCN, but we really do think that being consistent is absolutely key. Even if you don't have a load of time to ride, it's good to get in 4 to 5 rides per week. And even if they only total around about 5 hours, that's much better for you than one individual 5-hour ride at the weekend.
Yeah, believe it or not, our very own Matt Stevens actually won the National Road Race Championships when he was still working full-time and only training a handful of hours per week. Now clearly Matt is prodigiously talented, much as we're loath to admit it, but the principle is there for all of us.
So if your commute into work is rideable, try doing that 3 times per week, and on one of those days you can add in a 45-minute loop extra, either on the way in or on the way out. And if you're particularly motivated, why not try adding in a half-an-hour indoor trainer session on 1 day per week. Our second training tip is something which even professional riders with all of the time in the world will still occasionally do. The idea being that you head out on your bike before breakfast in the morning. The good thing though is that you can have a nice little espresso to kick things off, but I'm afraid no sugar is allowed. The idea behind this sort of training is it will help your body adapt to using fat as its source of fuel, which in turn will allow you to conserve those really important glycogen stores of which you've all only got a limited supply. Now you need to start off conservatively with this sort of training. We'd recommend only around about 20 minutes to start with, either out on the road or on your indoor trainer. But over time you can build this up to an hour, maybe even an hour and a half. You can also build this into your commute, maybe 1 day per week, making sure of course that when you arrive at work you have a nice, healthy, nutritious breakfast. Sweet spot is a term which is being used more and more in modern cycling, and it basically refers to a small training zone just below your functional threshold power or heart rate, which is supposed to give you the best bang for your buck when it comes to the use of your training time. Now these sorts of intervals are purely endurance based, i.e. they're aerobic, so you don't need to worry that they're going to bring you to a premature peak, or the other good thing is that you can do them on back-to-back days. Now I personally use these to great effect and made some really big improvements in power and endurance, despite the fact that I introduced them when I'd already been racing and training for years. There's all sorts of sessions that you can do. We'd recommend starting with something like 2 15-minute efforts, around about 90% of functional threshold power or 95% of your threshold heart rate. But you can increase this over time, gradually either increasing your duration of the intervals or the number that you do in a single session. Now it's a great way of increasing your power at threshold, and in turn that will mean that you can sustain your endurance power a lot longer. So in summary, if you haven't got loads of time to ride your bike, but you want to get better at doing long rides, well firstly make sure that you're consistent with the time that you have got to train. Secondly, try riding in a fasted state.
Experiment with some really time efficient sweet spot training, and then perhaps add more cycling into your daily routine, perhaps by trying to ride to work.
For more training videos, just click on Matt.
And to follow GCN, click on Dan, if you really want to.